I dream for all of us to own wardrobes with garments made from sustainable sources, including fair wages for the makers. I aim to motivate and inspire viewers to see the clothes they wear as an expression of their personality and their beliefs. This is the Slow Wardrobe. Come and have a look. Welcome to the next episode of the Slow Wardrobe podcast. It's been quite a while since I last did a recording, and I'm sorry it's taken me this long to come back. We had such a busy time with a couple of shows in short succession, and Edinburgh Yarn Fest especially left us kind of reeling in terms of extra orders and stuff to catch up with, and then we came crashing into Wonderwool. I was so keen to do a recording just before Wonderwool and I just didn't manage it. I know that after a show I always need time to catch up again. Anyway, my name is Linda. I am hosting this podcast and it is a little bit of an allegory of different subjects and different things that I do in different episodes, and I think I'll just keep it like that. I quite like to keep it varied and change it up every now and then. In today's episode, I'm actually for the first time going to sit down and talk a little bit about the projects that I have recently cast off. I've got on the needles at the moment, and those that I would like to cast on desperately. There are always so many more than I actually have time for. On top of that, I like to design new patterns, which I do far too many of that I then don't have time to write up properly. I'm always behind with pattern writing. Before doing the knitting, I'm going to talk more Layercake and more ways of layering. And in today's episode, I am working on the basis of owning 2 or 3 pieces of Layercake and showing you how by layering them together and with different items of clothing, you can come up with a pretty big wardrobe that will actually serve you year round. So the whole idea with Layercake is that you can throw a Layercake over the top of whatever you're wearing. It's partially the reason for the big armholes, but also because you can then wear thicker layers either over the top or underneath them, which really makes them year-round garments. And I'm showing more of that in detail in the next section. So those are the 2 most important bits this time, a Layercake section followed by me blathering on about my knitting. I hope you enjoy. Here we go, full winter Layercake. Start at the beginning and build up and break down the outfit from there. I am wearing as base layers a long sleeve t-shirt that is poking out underneath my jumper, my Gramps cardigan jumper, and I'm wearing leggings. And if it were really winter, of course, I would be wearing boots with some chunky hand knitted socks. Bear with me on that one. Imagine the boots. It's just going to be like this. So long sleeve t-shirt and leggings are my base layers for winter. Over the top of that is the garment that is going to stay around all the way through to the summer look, which is a full length Playsuit in the black gingham, which I'm wearing here. You're going to see more of it in a minute. Over the top of that, a store-bought knee-length, loose-fitting little black dress, which I'll show more of as well. And it's partially to illustrate how these outfits can be easily combined with whatever you've got in your wardrobe already. I'm wearing sleeveless, little fingerless gloves as well for warmth in winter. Of course, I'm wearing a smock and a jumper over the top, and I'm wearing two scarves, a linen one and a wool one. And again, just to emphasize, Layercake layers everything, including scarves and shawls. You just put more layers over the top and play with them as the temperature and the seasons change. So, starting with the scarves and the gloves, removing the first layer. Same look still, but with all the heavy gone around my neck, as well as the fingerless gloves. I can then of course play with the linen and keep wearing that if I wanted to. And to be honest, these can be added on at every stage, either the wool or the linen or both combined. So here's the outfit without the gloves and the two scarves, and about to lose the jumper. So without the jumper, the smock gives a lovely pop of colour, and it nips in the dress, which, as you will see next, is quite wide and oversized. So without the smock, you can see that oversized look of the dress a little bit better. It's quite nice to have 3/4 length sleeves over the top of long ones. It gives an extra colour interest, and it gives you the option to roll up the sleeves or push up the sleeves of the long sleeve t-shirt. If I then lose the dress and go another layer down, we still have a nice kind of autumn or spring outfit with a long sleeve t-shirt underneath the Playsuit. And of course there are still also, oh, hello, there are also still the leggings underneath. And to make that outfit slightly less warm and to see the leggings peeping out, of course you can wear it without the zip done up. If we take another step towards summer, you can then lose the t-shirt with the long sleeves, and by wearing a vest or a crop top, which is what I'm wearing, you can wear the Playsuit without a top underneath. If you want to cover your arms if you get chilly, then you can, in the summer especially, just wear a shawl or scarfie like the Jagger to cover the tops of your arms and to, again, create a extra pop of color to jazz up the outfit a little bit. If that gets too warm, you can just pull it up onto your shoulders, giving some air to your arms again, and still use the color effect of the scarf. Here I've taken off the scarf and put the smock back on for an extra layer, but still a very summery look. Of course, you can choose to wear the Playsuit either done up or loose like that, which gives more of a skirt effect. But I'm going to show you in a second what it looks like done up, which of course is very effective as well in combination with a smock like that and that round hemline. Then adding the Jagger back on to bring those colors in and recreate that same effect that we had before. Another look, and see how different the Jagger looks when you see it on top of a smock. Now, keeping the smock and dropping the Playsuit and just wearing the smock again with a crop top or a little tee underneath, and the leggings, which is a good summer look as well, especially if you want to wear the smock without showing your bare legs. An alternative here is, ta-da, the new dress, which of course is a great look for summer as well by itself. I'm showing here the two dresses on top of each other so you can see the difference in length. The short version is just over the knee in my case, and the long version is almost down to my ankles. Here is the shorter version of the dress, again in combination with the long sleeve t-shirt and the leggings. And then we can layer things back up again with Smock over the top. So remember, we're still only talking about 3 layer cake items in total. The Playsuit, the dress, and the Smock. And of course you could replace the little black dress that I was wearing in the beginning with this layer cake dress. Adding another layer in the form of a cardigan and a scarf, making it warmer again, going more towards winter, and showing different layers in different colors. You could choose to have this much more monochrome by wearing less colors together, but a multicolored version works really well. I'm going to show you now in detail how I put those 2 scarves on, because I'm sure to be getting questions about that. So I'm tying the jagger on by going around my neck twice and then just putting a single knot in it. And then I'm going to, oh, excuse the tags. Of course, those are the tags that we have on the scarves at the shows to show the names of the patterns and make it easy for peeps to take photographs of the details of the scarves. So I've got the linen jagger on, and I'm now going to combine that with the gingham wingham. As you can see, I'm making sure that the ends of the jagger are sitting on top of the gingham wingham so we don't lose all the detail of the linen. And then I'm doing the same thing with the gingham wingham, i.e. I've got it around my neck twice, but I've got the tip of it, the middle of it, sticking to, well, what is the right of our screen, whereas the tip of the jagger is slightly to the left. Again, to show the different scarves and little details of the different scarves and to bring out the color combination. So we're back in winter and nice warm layers. Showing here the long dress over the top of the Playsuit. It can either be the long dress or the shorter dress, but just to show you that that works really well in combination. And also trying to highlight here that the underarms of the dress are a bit higher than the underarms of the Playsuit and the Smock. That is to make it easier for everyone to wear the dress with less underneath in summer and to effectively wear it as an underlayer with other layer cakes over the top, especially in the colder months. Here's an example of that with the Playsuit at the bottom, then the shorter layer cake dress in the middle, the blue, and then the Smock over the top. And what works really nice is to see that the lowest points of the Smock are just about the same length as the shorter dress. What I'm showing you here is an idea that I actually use quite a lot in winter. I've taken a cardigan and instead of just wearing it around my shoulders, I turn it into a scarf by wrapping it around my neck twice and creating a nice extra warm layer without wearing the entire cardigan. That's the cardigan worn again. And you can see that, again, there's a lot of extra possibilities with a cardigan, regardless of its shape. It doesn't have to be a cardigan that's short and cropped. Here is a long line alternative in the shape of the Firth of Forth, one of Kate Davies' designs, a very nice long and drapey cardigan. It was knitted in Soliloquy alpaca boo, and you can see here that a cardigan on top of a layer cake doesn't have to be short. I don't want you to think just because I've been talking about boxy cardigans that your cardigans need to be short when you're layer caking. That's not the case. Here, an alternative look for those of you who prefer tabards. Oh, hello again in the mirror. If you prefer a tabard, then that is also perfectly to combine with playsuit and a dress, or to lose the dress in the middle, and trying to show here how effective it can be to have different layer cakes all in the same fabric. It doesn't have to be a contrast, it can be a combination. Okay, let's talk some knitting. I'll first talk about projects that I've got on the needles. I've brought a couple. I think I probably have more, but these are, from my perspective, the most urgent ones. Then finished objects, and then I'll talk about stuff that I would love to get started on. Right, so first one. Not much to show, actually. Cast it on yesterday evening. It's because I've got a couple of recently finished objects, but I will show more of this as it comes along. This is a new design for the Layercake linen multicolored kit that I sell. It's got 6 different colors of the Layercake linen yarn. I think this must be my favorite color. Look. Isn't that beautiful? It's just this beautiful kind of raspberry red. It is bright without being screaming red. It's softer than like your fire engine red, which is, I was referring to it as raspberry, and I love it. Anyway, so that's the first color that I've started with. It's one of the 6 colors that's in the kit. I'll show you a picture of the kit so you can see all the colors, and also we'll show you now a picture of the little swatch that I knitted before casting on this project. It's going to be a shawlette, like a big version of a neckerchief, I guess you could call it, and it's being knitted on 4mm needles, and it's going to be the same kind of open effect that you get with a thin yarn on big needles, but with the linen, because it doesn't have any stretch and it's got great memory, you can block it out very easily. You can block it very aggressively with a hot iron and steam, for example. There's no need to treat it carefully at all, and it really holds its shape. So it's wonderful for lace projects. If you really want to see the open stitches, you really want to see the lace, then linen is perfect for that. In fact, I have 2 linen lace projects still that I was given by Anne from Artisan Yarns. I still have some of her yarns online as well that are still available. Very, very sadly, Anne is not with us anymore, but I still have some of her yarns for those of you who are keen on them, and I'll show you 2 projects that were knitted with her yarn. I think they're both free patterns on Ravelry, and they're great examples of how an open pattern, a lace pattern on bigger needles, shows beautifully when knitted in a linen yarn. So at the moment, the linen yarns that I sell are all around the 600 meter per 100 grams in that region, just like my soliloquy, and therefore the Layercake linen yarn and the soliloquy can quite easily be substituted for each other when it comes to running length. But the look, of course, of the yarns is different. Anyway, I digress. This was my first my first work in progress. More to be shown soon, I promise. Okay, quickly moving on to number 2. Oh, and just the little bag that I've put that in. So pleased with this little bag. I bought this at Yarnporium in November in London, and it's beautiful. It's like a machine knitted design, which has then been hand embroidered, and you probably, if you're au fait with these kind of bags, you'll recognize it already. It's by Woolly Originals. I think their stand was virtually mobbed at Edinburgh Yarn Fest, so I was glad that I had a chance to buy this little bag in November. I love it. It's a small bag, but for a little project like the one that I was showing you, it's fine. So that was my first one. Next one is another one that's a little bit shameful, actually. It's a work in progress, project in progress. It's a sock project, and the first sock was actually finished. It's here. It is a sock that I knitted with a little bit of color work, just a little bit of fancy work at the beginning and at the end to jazz it up a little bit, and a reinforced heel to make it nice and hard wearing. It's a Eye of Partridge heel, as you can see, and the cuff and the toe and the heel were knitted with Trinity Twist, which is a heavier yarn, and then the rest of the sock is knitted with this yarn, which is one of the multicolored yarns by 5 Moons, was bought by Andrea for herself. Andrea, the lady who works with me and who you might have met at shows if you see me there, and she makes all the Layercake. She picked this color at Yarndale 2017 because I had promised to knit her a pair of socks. I very soon after the show started this sock, and she has seen this and she's tried it on and she's excited, and I suffered, which doesn't happen very often. Maybe it just makes me a selfish knitter. But I suffered from a severe case of second sock syndrome, because look how far I am on sock number 2, just coming up to the heel section. It's pathetic. This would take me a couple of evenings of knitting at home, and I just haven't done it. Isn't that awful? So I've reinstated it as one of my whips to work on ASAP. So I'm knitting on this in conjunction with the little shawlette pattern. So TV knitting, perfect. Andrea, I will finish them for you, I promise. So that's my second work in progress. Now, show you a couple of projects that, and it's in a little baggie that I think I bought on Etsy a number of years ago. It's one of those little Japanese knot bags, tiny one. I just love this fabric. It's kind of 1950s to me anyway. I love it. Wouldn't it be nice to make layer cakes in that fabric? Ooh. It's cotton though, not linen, so it's not going to be as hard wearing. Anyway, that's my baggie for the socks. And as I said, I wanted to talk a little bit more about 5 Moons yarns. Some of you may be aware that Sharon, 5 Moons Yarns, has been guest dyeing both my soliloquy bases and Trinity Twist for a couple of years already. And we have started to do some shows together, in some cases sharing a stand or having stands next to each other, and that's going really well. So we came up with the idea of sharing the website as well. So as of March at Edinburgh Yarn Fest, that was the launch of it, 5 Moons yarns are listed on the Slow Wardrobe website. You'll see when you go to the website that there is, the top of the page is Layercake and Tall Yarns and 5 Moons, and that's where you'll find all her bases. So go and have a look. I think she's put lots of new colours up there. She's definitely working on some new bases. I don't know whether she's listed any of the new ones yet. I'll check with her, and if they are listed, I'll show them to you right here. But to get a good overview of everything that she has listed, go and have a look on the Slow Wardrobe website and look at the 5 Moons bases and colours that she's got up. There'll be more coming, and whenever I'm aware of those, then I will announce them in this podcast as well. So I'll keep you abreast of what she's up to. In terms of shows, she's going to be on the Slow Wardrobe stand with her yarns at both Woolfest at the end of June, as well as Fibre East at the end of July. And then at Yarndale at the end of September, we have a huge shared stand. So she'll be there, I'll be there, Zoe will be there, and Andrea. So there'll be all four of us on a big stand at Yarndale. But for now, 5 Moons Yarns on the Slow Wardrobe website. Socks. And now a couple of finished projects that overtook things like the socks, because I do get carried away with initiatives. When we were at Wonderwall recently, Sharon, again from 5 Moons Yarns, was wearing what she referred to as Ragg SOCKS instead of slippers when we were staying at the place that we stay at Wonderwall, which we share. So this is a pair of Ragg SOCKS, and it's a Swedish yarn, a thick Swedish yarn, like double knitting yarn or even heavier. I think it runs 150 meters per 100 grams, so it's almost like an Aran weight. And it's sold by Midwinter Yarns, and you buy a little kit that has 200 grams of this yarn in it and a free pattern. It gets knitted on 4mm needles. Well, normal people knit it on 4mm needles. I knit it on 3.5 because I'm such a loose knitter. So I knitted on 3.5mm needles, and there are lots of different colorways. And this was the colorway that I had actually bought for my husband. And then I started knitting it and liked it so much that I wanted to keep them for myself. And I had chosen a different colorway that has like white and dark gray or black and red in it that I was going to knit for me, and I've knitted those for him. And to give you an idea how fast those socks knit, it took me about 10 evenings, because I tend to only knit on this kind of stuff in front of the TV. Maybe there were even 1 or 2 evenings that I didn't knit, but I knit 2 pairs of socks, 1 pair for me and a sock for my husband in that short space of time. Of course, on big needles and in the dark, because we tend to have lots of the lights off when we've got the TV on. I don't really see what I'm doing, and then knitting something like this, of course, is fantastic. Whereas the socks for Andrea are knitted on 2.25mm needles, so are not quite as easy to do in the dark. Pathetic excuse, I know. Right, that was my first finished object. The second one I only finished yesterday evening, and this again is a pair of socks that has been on the needles a little bit longer. Here they are. They're actually 2 socks there. And I've put a little bit of patterning on the leg bit and on the top of the foot, which is borrowed from the Hermione's Everyday Socks. The yarn for this is by a Homespun House, Molly of a Homespun House, and I bought this a couple of years ago, and I think it was one of her Christmas colors at the time, and you can see that there's like dark green and red in there. It's a lovely, lovely colorway, and I stumbled across it again recently and decided to finally knit them up. Contrast heel and toe, and no cuff. I love socks without a cuff because I tend to scrumple my socks down and then wear them with ankle height shoes, lace-up shoes, witchy shoes. And then I like scrumpling down my socks, so I actually like the look better if they don't have any cuff at all. So these are for me. Bit of selfish knitting. That other pair of socks was for me. This was for me. Ready for the autumn, because of course we've just entered better weather and I'm not wearing any socks at the moment. So those are my finished projects. Then the project that I'd love to start, I had just ordered some of the Le Petit Lambswool by Biche&Bouche, which is now available from, amongst others, Tribe Yarns in London. My plan is to knit a jumper by Junko Okamoto called Astrid. I'll show you a picture of it. And instead of doing all the color work in Le Petit Lambswool, I am planning to do the base color in that yarn, but for the color work I want to try and use my soliloquy merino and silk blend. There's not a huge difference in thickness between the yarns. The Le Petit Lamb's wool runs about 500 meters per 100 grams, and Soliloquy runs 600 meters per 100 grams. So first on my list is to knit a swatch with some color work in it to see whether the yarns play nicely together. I'm hoping that the jumper going to get the structure that it normally has from the Le Petit Lamb's wool, because that's quite a slightly crunchy, more rustic yarn. So, and it's woolen spun, so it's got a bit more body, and that the color work, which is not too intense, won't take away any of that structure. By the same token, it'll introduce some smoother sections, and I thought maybe could make a nice contrast with the crunchiness of the base color. The original base color is a grey-brown color. I'm going to go for something slightly lighter and have a grey beige color as a base, and then work with different colors of Soliloquy. And in the next episode, hopefully, I will be able to show you which colors I've chosen, and I will make sure to show you the swatch that I knit. So it'll be a journey that I can share with you. If it's going to work, of course, I'll show you. If it doesn't work, I'll be honest about it and show you as well. And hopefully that could give you some useful feedback if you would consider doing that type of color work yourself. So that's my next project that is coming up that I can't wait to cast on. And as soon as I've got the yarns together, I will give that a start. Now, the last little bit that I would like to show you is some mending work that I'm going to do. And again, I'm going to show you a before here, and then next time I'll hopefully be able to show you a before and after. This is on a shop bought cardigan that I only discovered at the weekend, this past weekend, has suffered some moth damage. It turned out, this might be useful information as well. Every now and then we saw a moth in our living room, and we had gone through everything, our wardrobes and everything, couldn't find any moths anywhere. Eventually, it turned out that we had moths in a cowhide that we had on the floor there. Can you imagine that? I had noticed that over time there were a couple of patches that had seemed to have lost the hair from the cowhide, and I thought that that was because I hadn't paid a lot of money for that cowhide. I had got quite a good deal on it, and I thought, yeah, see, that's what happens if you try and get a deal like that. Then you get punished in different ways. Maybe the tanning hasn't been done right or whatever. You know, I just imagined and felt guilty about this cowhide. Turned out it had moths in it. We never ever, because of course they got, this cowhide got vacuumed very regularly. We never saw any of the little husks. We never saw any debris. Any of the signs that there were moths there were invisible. And clearly the little larvae that the moths produce managed to keep hold of the hairs of the hide underneath, so we couldn't actually see them, and then eventually would just come out and transform and fly away, and we were never the wiser. And the only reason I found out about this was that we had decided that this cowhide had seen better days. No wonder, because it had moths in it, for goodness sake, and we were going to get rid of it. I then asked my brother whether he wanted to use it in a practice space that he has for his music, and he said, oh, well, that might be quite a nice idea. So I kept it here at the studio. I had it rolled up on an empty roll from one of our linen fabrics. And then when I realized that it was going to be quite a while before we would be able to take it with us to Holland, I thought, you know what? For it to be folded up for a couple of days is not going to be a problem. I should just fold it, stick it in a box and send it. And as I was trying to fold it, all the empty husks from the moths came falling out. and a couple of locks of hair even. It's like, oh my God. Because of course it hadn't been vacuumed here. It had just been rolled up. So the moths that were in there had been able to go to town completely unnoticed. And luckily, they hadn't spread here at the studio, probably because they were very happy where they were. Goodness me. And luckily also that I had this cowhide in the basement here and not in the main area, because it could have spelled absolute disaster. So moths can actually breed in places where you wouldn't expect them. Who knew? Maybe I should have thought of this, but it never occurred to me that a cowhide on the floor could be a source of an infestation. Same goes for a wool rug. That can have an infestation as well. So just so you know, if you have an infestation and you cannot find where they are, they may actually be lower than you think and perfectly hidden and able to withstand vacuuming, even if it's frequent vacuuming. So there we are. The upshot of that was that a cardigan of mine got eaten. It only has one small section of damage, and I will show it to you here. If it doesn't come across well, I will film it and show it again later on as well. It's right on the edge, and it's just at the front of the cardigan. It's one of the it's like a waterfall front, and it's just literally a bunch of stitches eaten in from the side. Can you see that? They are tiny stitches because of course it's a store-bought item. There you have it. So I'm going to have a go at invisible mending first because of where it is. And as long as I think the color of the yarn that I use is a good match, I may be able to get away with it. So I'm going to show you the result of my attempts at visible mending. And if that doesn't work, invisible mending, and if that doesn't work, then I'll just go overboard and make a bigger visible mend of it. And may even add a couple of fake visible mends on other parts to kind of pull the whole look together. So we'll see how we go, and I will report back. So that's it. That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed watching, and fingers crossed. We don't have another show until the end of June, which is Woolfest in Cumbria. So I hope to be back with another episode before then. Any feedback gratefully received, as always. Either written or spoken, anything is fine, and let me know what you think. Any special requests, things that you want me to do more or less of, also gratefully received, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.